What it do, cucks? It's your boy the Hater Outdoors video 3. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be a 3-video day today because I just thought of a new idea for video, so I figured why not go outside on another little walk and record this video as well. This video is a more general video about how wrestling just completely sucks. I mean, let's be honest, right? We need better wrestling. We need better alternatives. Now that Wesley has turned heel, for example, the Rascals are now back to TNA, it seems like. That's probably the end of that. They were just used to turn Wesley heel. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't matter. The point is, I don't even know where to watch TNA to see the fallout of this if it continues. You know what I mean? That's something that I like because I like the Rascals, but I don't even know where to watch it. Where do you watch it? Like on Twitch? You know what I'm saying? On YouTube up in this bitch? You know what I'm saying? I have no idea where to watch TNA. But that's not the real issue here, because it's not just about TNA. TNA is just one element of the wrestling continuum, right? And the truth is that wrestling as a whole is just complete shit, right? Like, there's nothing to watch anymore. Nobody cares anymore. Like, sometimes I go and I look to see who the champions are in New Japan, and it's the same 3 faces that nobody cares about. Meanwhile, you have Okada, who was like a main event star in New Japan. He's now a complete nobody in AEW. Like, nobody cares about him at all, you know? So with all that being, also doesn't even wrestle. Like, it's like, when's the last time this guy wrestled, Blood and Guts? It's been like 2 weeks. Like, none of the people that wrestled there have wrestled since, you know? Like, I understand some of them have to sell it, but it's like, some of them should be wrestling. Not all of them necessarily, but some of them should be wrestling. Nevertheless, it is what it is. We don't really particularly care about any of these things, but we do find ourselves, as wrestling fans, I feel, left with basically nothing to watch. Raw is unwatchable at this point. SmackDown is unwatchable at this point. Yeah, Roman Reigns is back, but, you know, it's going to take 2 months for him to actually say a word, it looks like. So what are we going to do? You know what I mean? There's nothing really to look forward to is the bigger issue, right? So wrestling is all about anticipation, right? Entertainment in general is about beginnings, endings, and the anticipation between and during the actual programming, right? So for example, if a show ends, right? If the season ends, I should say, then we anticipate what's going to happen next season, right? A great show that I watched last year, King of Tulsa, starring Sylvester Stallone. Great show. I really enjoyed it, right? The first season ended on a cliffhanger type situation. And the idea is, okay, now we have to wait for the second season to watch this. This is going to bring up the anticipation. You know, last night, I watched the premiere of The Challenge, right? It was a 2-part premiere. The second part is next week. So now I have to wait another week to see how the first episode essentially is going to unfold, you know? This is a technique that is used very, very well by TV shows and, you know, companies that have success. WWE, strangely enough, was the king of this, right? This was like what wrestling was all about. Like, because wrestling, given what it is, can end on a crazy, semi-conclusion, on a crazy cliffhanger, depending on how you construct it. And that makes it so that next week, everyone that watched is going to tune in, right? That's not the case anymore, of course, but that's how it used to be. That was the format, right? Like, it was very common for a show to end with someone getting the upper hand on someone, right? But nowadays, because Triple H's booking is like 3 months for one element of the story to advance, it's like, all right, you know, let's say the Bloodline beat up Cody Rhodes. Like, next week, you can expect them to beat up Cody Rhodes again, right? When will Cody Rhodes get his revenge? In a meaningless match at SummerSlam, which was pretty much overshadowed by the return of Roman Reigns, right? SummerSlam exists in a unique juncture of this spectrum because it was a payoff show, right? Now, those are good if you have several of them. If you build up for 3 months, right? Basically, nothing's happened since WrestleMania. Everything just happened all in one fell swoop at SummerSlam. Then you can do that, right? And that will, of course, and I have to admit this, that will make SummerSlam more exciting, right? That will make, I don't know, Survivor Series more exciting, right? Obviously, it'll make WrestleMania more exciting. But the problem with long build-ups also is that, number one, you have to deal with a long build-up that nobody wants to deal with. And 2, the payoff often becomes very predictable, right? Because if you have the Bloodline beating Cody Rhodes 6 times in a row, then you know, oh, the 7th event is coming and it's the pay-per-view. Let me guess, Cody Rhodes is going to win, right? That takes away from the room of the anticipation and the climax that they're building towards. In addition to this, we have another problem that exists in the same concept, right? When we have these long buildups, there's nothing to look forward to in the short term, right? So now, what do we have to do? I have to wait until Survivor Series for the next step of WWE, like for the entire company, right? For the entire, like all the storylines are gonna like, you know, eventually unveil themselves at Survivor Series. Like that's probably where you're gonna see like the real payoff between Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. You know what I mean? That's where you're gonna see the real payoff between Roman Reigns and fucking Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline, right? But these are like, it's 3 months away. You know what I mean? It's literally 3 months away. What are we gonna do for the next 3 months? Scratch our asses? That's 12 episodes of SmackDown and 12 of Raw. Like everything from now until then is complete filler, right? Like, does anyone care about Randy Orton and Gunther? This is now a world title match. Last month, it was a throwaway match on Raw for the King of the Ring. You know what I mean? Or maybe it was the King of the Ring. Was that even a pay-per-view? I don't think it was, right? Maybe it was. It was like one of those like weird events that like aren't really pay-per-views, but they have like 4 matches, you know? Whatever. The point is, nobody cares about this anymore. And also, it's like, what's the point? Like, we know Gunther's going to win. We know Cody's going to win, whoever the hell he fights next. Doesn't even matter. I mean, it's Kevin Owens, so obviously he's going to win. But he's probably going to win the next one after that. And the next foreseeable time when Cookie Rhodes can lose his title is Survivor Series. You know what I mean? And what does that tell us? That tells us that who the hell wants to watch this crap? You know, if all the important things, at the very least in the past, the way it was structured was as follows, right? Important things tend to happen on pay-per-views. But if they don't happen on pay-per-views, they might happen on a random Raw or a random SmackDown if you're lucky, right? But nowadays, it's like the peg has been moved up 1 unit, right? Just like the quality of wrestling has been moved down 1 unit, the peg has been moved up 1 unit. Maybe it's not a coincidence, right? So now the way it works is the big things are going to happen at WrestleMania, and if you're lucky, they might happen at like Survivor Series or SummerSlam, or maybe the Rumble, right? I mean, the Rumble has like a big thing built into it, but you know what I mean. And you're never going to see a big thing happen on free TV, right? Which begs the question, well then, why the hell would I watch Raw and SmackDown? I'll just read about it in 5 minutes. I'll read 12 weeks worth of wrestling in 5 minutes, and then I'll watch the pay-per-view. That's not a sustainable model, right? The wrestling is not good enough to get people to buy tickets. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, they're selling out. Yeah, they're selling out. They're selling out because we are still, even now, in this like post-COVID era, right, where people want to go out and do things, right? And fundamentally, they're selling now because prices are low, you know what I'm saying? And quite honestly, like, if we're being 100% honest, a lot of this shit is inflated. Like, yeah, they're selling out, but they're selling out like 10,000 seat arenas instead of 40,000 seat arenas, you know? So there's also that, right? And then there's obviously the other inflations that we've talked about, like, you know, making SummerSlam 2 days. The same people buy 2 tickets, you know, and they're like, oh, they count them as 2 people, you know? So you have a lot of that going on too. But the point is, we need better wrestling because the wrestling right now just quite honestly isn't cutting it. Like, I don't know how anyone can be entertained by this. Like, it's one thing. Okay, so like, at least when Cena was champion, right? Okay, you could say the kids are entertained by Cena, but like, who are the kids entertained by now, right? Who are the women entertained by now? Who are the men entertained by now? Who are the people that like to see in-ring wrestling, in-ring product? Those people, oh, the in-ring product is great. Who is entertaining them? And it's not Gunther because he wrestles once every 4 weeks. It's not Cookie because he wrestles once every 4 weeks, right? Who are you being entertained by? Santos Escobar, who like, you know, like who's basically an NXT level wrestler? Who's entertaining who? You know, nothing is happening, and they will periodically get more and more obtuse with this, right? So the same way that, for example, why not just have Sami Zayn lose the Intercontinental title on an episode of Raw? Why's it got to be at SummerSlam? Have him lose it, I don't know, the Raw before SummerSlam, and then have the same matches again. You know, just throw a little bit of variety in there because nobody is excited, right? And then, of course, obviously, the biggest hurdle that we've got is people aren't wrestling. And you need people to wrestle. If people aren't wrestling, then what can we do? You know what I mean? Like, we need people to wrestle and people to entertain us, right? Clearly, as I've established in the last few videos from yesterday, we all know now that nobody can entertain us that's currently signed by WWE, right? It's just not in the code. It's not in their capacity to entertain us. You know what I mean? But they can still try. And with that being said, we need better wrestling. This is the opportune time for a real wrestling company to come around the corner and start doing something, right? Making some moves. But with that being said, that's probably not going to happen. So there you have it, cucks.